Hello and welcome to audio highlights for Chapter 3. I think that you'll find that Chapter 3 is a bit of a breeze compared to the text-heavy, theoretical-heavy parts of Chapter 2. So there were lots of terms and different stages and different things to consider with Chapter 2. The Chapter 3 is a little bit lighter, but still very much important. So we start out with a few key concepts in terms of social advocacy, and this chapter is really a call to action. So it's a reminder is that we have this shared goal as counseling or human services professionals, and that goal is to promote equal distribution of power and also just to promote equal opportunity and access to opportunity. So social advocacy is one of the few exceptions in our profession where we don't actually want you as a professional to keep your values or your beliefs to yourself. We actually want you to work hard on the behalf of minority members or populations that may be oppressed, and we want you to do that work both within session and outside the session. So as you looked before at the different maybe identity development stages, hopefully you got an idea of where you may be in certain parts of your identity development, and so you know where you may need to go to continue to develop your own cultural identity. And so you'll be able to apply kind of your own self-growth and self-development too to help others do the same. So our unified kind of fight, what we're fighting against is social injustice, and that could be anything from actual forced oppression or oppression by deprivation, or it can be, as we've talked about before and defined, privilege. So remember that privilege are those instances where one has power, access, advantage, or majority status in a way that is just kind of entitled to them. So it just kind of came along with the status. And so it could be something like maybe an individual who does not have a disability is house hunting, looking for a new house to buy, and so they've pulled up a few in a neighborhood that they'd like to see, and they're able to go tour the homes and see the backyards and see the basements and see what they like or they don't like about the property. Another homeowner who may use a wheelchair for mobility maybe wants to live in the same neighborhood, but because there's no zero access way to enter the house, they're only able to see a few of the rooms. The realtor has to describe the backyard rather than tell them. They could still potentially purchase this house because they could adapt it to suit their needs. But there's a privilege difference between being able-bodied and having a disability. Now, of course, we would never suggest that the person that doesn't have a disability did something to the individual with a disability or in some way kind of unfairly used their privilege of walking to get into the homes in the way that the other individual couldn't. It's nothing like that. The idea is that it's important to just recognize that we have these privileges rather than just taking them for granted, because when we take them for granted, we seem not to have the same amount of empathy or understanding for a person who might rightfully be frustrated with certain instances of privilege. So another example might be maybe a single mom who's African American goes in to fill out a new apartment application for she and her family, and maybe the person immediately starts asking questions about her income and in a kind of a forceful way and a doubtful way that she would be able to afford this apartment. And so she may be pretty frustrated in that maybe her best friend, who happens to be a white female who's single and doesn't have any kids, came in the day before and they gave her a beautiful tour and told her she could even skip that part of the application, just fill out her name and the pertinent information that they'd let her know if she was approved or not. So again, the second individual didn't do anything directly to the first individual. It's just the idea that when we're a member of the majority or dominant status, we tend to have these different advantages that we don't even think about. And those loss of those advantages or even opportunity or the loss of access is what can be so frustrating. So another reason why this is so important to our profession is that it has real, significant, documented by years of research impact on mental health and also physical health. So it takes a toll on an individual to be continuously oppressed and discriminated against and not provided equal access to things like schools for their children or grocery stores where you can buy healthy foods because, many times in inner city neighborhoods there aren't grocery stores. The only place within a several mile radius to buy fruit might be a convenience store, and typically they don't always have the freshest or the largest selection of fruit. So these types of inequities in our society cause real mental mental health challenges as well as physical health challenges. And so again, that's another reason why it's important that we unite as a profession and work social advocacy and social justice into our role as professionals, not just kind of something extra that you do on the side as, you know, part of your good deed, but a real integral part of your practice as a professional. The chapter finishes up with 6 domains of advocacy competencies. So in the same way that we looked at kind of these different, and here's another, the 3-tier model of social advocacy. In the same way that we looked at different stages that people go through in identity development, we also believe that people may go through different stages in terms of their comfort and their willingness to be a social advocate. So what I would encourage all of you to do for this course especially is to focus extensively on that self-awareness piece. It's going to be a really unique opportunity that you have to reflect on your cultural identity, and then as a professional you'll continue to develop skills to work with clients and then also to work in the community at large as a strong positive social advocate in the fight against social injustice. So one last encouragement I would have related to this chapter in the text is that there's some great self-reflection modules worked into your text. One of these includes a preview of our genogram activity. So you could even get a jump start on that if you wanted to start thinking about your own history and your own cultural identity and what parts of your identity may have privileged status, what parts may be oppressed. So your reflection pieces are a great way to kind of integrate this material in this chapter, and I hope you'll take the time to do them.